Hi, I'm Denise Griffitts, and this is your partner in Success Radio. And today, my guest is David Newman, CSP. And we're talking about how to stand out, build authority, and attract the right clients without chasing them around and begging. A lot of us have to do that. David is a certified speaking professional. He is a keynote speaker, and he is the author of Market Eminence, among others. And I have that book in front of me. David works with business leaders who are ready to grow faster and write this down, become a category of one. And today we are sponsored by me. This episode is sponsored by our preferred partner program at Your Partner in Success Radio. If you're ready to be seen, trusted, and chosen in your industry, we position you in front of a very established, quite elderly audience, to be honest, of decision makers who are actively looking for solutions. You can learn more about Your Partner in Success Radio. Go there and then go to the Partner with Us tab. Now back to my guest. Today we're talking about a shift from competing for attention to becoming the obvious choice in your market. We're going to explore how to build authority, increase visibility, and attract better clients without, as I mentioned, that constant chasing with David Newman. And he knows exactly how to help you stand out in a very noisy marketplace. David, welcome to the podcast, and thank you for sending me your book. You ought to see it. It has sticky notes all over it.
I love that, Denise. Thank you for having me. This will be fun.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And David, before we get started, can you tell our audience about you and how you like to show up in the world?
Sure. So that has changed over my 23-year entrepreneurial career because when I first started showing up in 2002, it was a total hot mess disaster. I had no niche. I had no specialization. I was literally jack of all trades, master of none, meaning I left a 10-year corporate training and consulting career where I was working for other people, got a paycheck, benefits, stock options, healthcare. It was amazing. And 2002 went out on my own, had no idea what I was doing. I was clueless. I was lost. I was broke. I was making every mistake in the book. I made the good ones twice because they were so much fun. And then eventually I realized that if I'm going to be successful as an entrepreneur, I really have to figure out this marketing thing and this selling thing. So I started a really big campaign around personal and professional development. I took some courses. I hired some amazing coaches and mentors. And I would say about 3 years later, I had some things figured out. And I started closing some of these bigger corporate contracts. I had clients like Microsoft and IBM and QVC and Merrill Lynch and American Express. And then friends, colleagues, other coaches and consultants would come to me and say, David, how'd you land that deal? How'd you close that big client? How did you close that 6-figure training contract? And I started telling them. And it was just, good people asking good questions. I was there to help. This was not part of my business. This was nothing other than being a good person and trying to share what I learned and what I figured out on my own. One day, Denise, I'm having lunch with a friend who's still a friend to this day. And he stops me he's asking me all these questions. And I'm giving all these smart sounding answers. And he says to me, you should do this for a living.
Right.
And I said,
was just going to ask you, why are you doing this for free?
Well,
figured that out.
this is, he was asking the same question. He said, you should do this for a living. And I said, do what for a living? He said, you should help people like me figure out what you figured out. And Denise, I laughed at him. I said, ain't no way, ain't no how. Entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, consultants, trainers, coaches, experts, they're all broke. It's all hopeless. I'm going back to my corporate clients. Thanks very much. So he kept on nudging me. He kept on bugging me. He kept on bringing this up. And finally, he says to me, listen, if I get 3 or 4 other folks, would you just kind of coach us in a very short program, like a 3 or 4 week thing, and, transfer what's in your brain to our heads? And I said, well, here's what we're going to do. We'll do 4 weeks. It'll be 4 Tuesday mornings. It'll be at my house, but I'm going to have to charge you. And he goes, okay, how much? And I said, $50. He says,
Ow.
$50 a session? I said, no, $50 for 4 weeks. He says, why? I said, I got to buy the bagels. I got to buy the juice. I got to buy the coffee. That stuff's not free. So it's $50 a head. So we had 4 or 5 people come to the house. I was riffing, and I'm doing what I'm doing now. I'm riffing, I'm answering questions. They're, peppering me with how do you do this and how do you book that and how do you figure out your pricing and how do you figure out value-based fees and all of these things. At the end of that 4 weeks, I had not had that much fun ever in my entire professional career. And at the same time, I think it was around week 3 of this 4-week time frame, I had a corporate contract with an insurance brokerage firm. This was a $10,000 deal. They bought a couple of seminars from me. This was like 2008. So $10,000 was a lot of money. It's still a lot of money, but in 2008, it was really a lot of money. And I walk in and I figure, okay, these are my corporate clients. This is where I belong. Everyone has this incredibly grumpy face. It was 20 people in a training room. Their arms are crossed. They're grimacing. They do not want to be there. Someone made them show up to this training. They would rather be doing anything else. They had their arms crossed. They had the worst possible body language. And it hit me like a flash, literally in that moment, on that day. I said, I've got these 4 or 5 people in my living room paying $50. They are lapping, they're hanging on every word. They're implementing, they're seeing success. They're doing what I'm telling them to do. For $10,000, I'm in this room with these people who do not want to be there, very resistant, very closed off. And it struck me, I'm in the wrong room doing the wrong thing for the wrong people for the wrong reason. And that was the day that I turned down. I started to dial back my corporate work, and I started the early iteration of the business that I'm in today. So that was the turning point. And so now, to answer your question in a very long-winded way, I apologize. It's the way I show up in the world is I show up as the David Newman that I wish David Newman had 20 years ago.
I love that, and I know exactly what you're talking about, and I'm writing down when you're talking. I mean, you with this group of people in your living room, I would have charged them for housekeeping, but, there you have that too.
Exactly.
But but they were engaged and they were implementing, and you use that word, but I wrote down and circled engaged.
Yes.
Means they were leaning forward, they were taking notes, they were listening, they were asking questions, they were learning and sharing and probably teaching you at the same time.
Oh, 1,000%.
I love that. So I have to ask you though, you said you had everything that when we get out of high school, we get out of college, our parents are saying, get a job, get 401k, get good insurance, get all the things that you think you're going to need.
Yeah.
What made you walk away from that? Because you had it.
Well, this is a great question. I had 3 corporate jobs over the span of 10 years. And each time, the reason I had 3 corporate jobs is a colleague of mine left. 6 months later, the phone would ring and say, hey, David, we need another consultant. Do you want to come over? And so I followed basically 2 of my colleagues, one from job 1 to job 2, the other one from job 2 to job 3. Job 3, when I started it, this was in 1998, this was the best job in the world. This was a great job with a great company. The company was PeopleSoft. In 1998, you know how they have the corporate ratings of the 100 best places to work in America?
Mhm.
This place was number 6. Number 6 best place to work in America as far as culture, as far as camaraderie, as far as caring for employees, as far as all of these things. So in 1999, there was a change of CEO. We went from a founder-led CEO, the founder was the CEO up until 1999. They brought in an outside CEO, which usually means cost cutting, culture change, right? New regime is in town. And it went from one of the best places to work to not a great place to work. So much so that it's funny because I applied for this job in 1997, in late 97. In 97, they were number 20 on the list. In 98, they were number 6 In 99, they didn't even make the list. They were not even in the top 100 because the changes were so profound, so dramatic, and so fast. So I still stuck it out because it still wasn't bad. But then they transferred my manager from a guy down the hall who I really liked and really respected to a woman in Canada. Now, I'm in suburban Philadelphia, just to give people the landscape and the geography. Having a boss down the hall that you like and respect versus having a remote boss that you never see, that you do not necessarily like and do not respect. And I'll tell you the exact moment that I lost respect for her. We would travel all over the country doing seminars, training, consulting, and we would submit expense reports. One time I'm doing a local thing in downtown Philadelphia. So really all you're billing for is parking and lunch. And so I submit my expenses. She calls me from Canada, looking at my most recent expense report and says, "David, I'm looking at your expense report and it says here that you paid $21 for parking. Most of our consultants that go to the Philly office, they only pay $18 for parking. What's up?" And I said,
You're
"Oh."
kidding me.
And by the way, I had a six-figure salary. I had stock options, tens of thousands of dollars. I had bonuses. We're talking about $3. I said to her, right, her name was Allison. She's no longer with the company, so it doesn't matter. And the company was also bought by Oracle, so now it really doesn't matter. I said, "Allison, if I'm going to rip off this company, at least give me the credit for scheming something bigger than $3. Give me a little credit that if I'm going to rip you off, it's going to be for more than $3."
Did
I
you hurt
said,
her
I
feelings?
submitted the receipt. I like to park closer to the training center than these other guys that park, a few blocks away. The other garage, it's $18. This garage, as you can see from the receipt, is $21. That was the day I started looking for another job. And I started looking for another job. And then a friend of mine says, "Hey, don't look for another job. Why don't we start this independent training consultancy together?" So very, very early on, I had a partner. The partner very quickly decided entrepreneurship was not for him, leaving me holding the entrepreneurship bag, so to speak. It was amicable, but I was now a solopreneur instead of having a partner. And literally January 1st of 2002 was my first day in business as a solo entrepreneur.
And you never saw it coming. I mean, it wasn't
It was kind of a
something that you were
surprise.
yeah, you weren't looking for it.
I
I
wasn't.
mean, you were being prepared for it, whether you
Yeah,
recognize that or not, but outside influences, we'll say, Allison, I think you said her name was, kinda shifted you to say, I don't wanna do this anymore. I can
she
do
sure did.
better."
Yeah.
And that's I call those God winks, to be honest. When those things happen, they're happening for a reason. They're
Yeah.
happening because you already know what you bring to the table. You already know how to help people. You already know so many things that other people simply do not know yet. And when it's time, you might get clobbered over the head, or it may be a God wink in the shower. I don't know. But when it shows up, the best thing you can do is take action. And you did.
Yes, for sure.
Wow. Okay. So the book, Market
Yeah.
Eminence. I told you I've got sticky notes all over it, but I'm going to tell our audience what I told you in the virtual green room. I love the size of this book. It's small, it's compact, it's easy to read. I can put it in my tote. If you're, carrying a briefcase, you can shove it in there. You can take it on a plane. It can be handy anytime you need it. It's a good size. And I know that may not be important to some people. It's important to me.
Right.
So let's start here. What does it actually look like when someone is attracting top tier clients, partners, investors like you did without chasing? And I think you explained that a little bit. But how can people, if that's happening to them and they're not quite aware of it yet, what do you tell them? Pay attention?
Sure. Well, so the problem or the question that I set out to answer, or the problem that I set out to solve with this book, is what does it take to get you, your product, your service, your organization, your brand, your cause, whatever it is, noticed in a very noisy AI littered world. And the recipe that the Market Eminence book sort of spells out in some granular detail, but I'll give you the three major pillars of it. Number one is visibility. So we need to be seen. No one buys expertise. No one buys services sight unseen. So job number one is to get seen. Because of the proliferation of AI-generated content, visibility is now available to everybody. Everyone can post 17 times a day on LinkedIn and Facebook and make AI-generated videos and put all kinds of crap out there. So visibility on its own is no longer enough. The second component, in addition to visibility, is a level of market resonance or marketplace respect, meaning that you are conveying that you know your prospect's problem so intimately and in such detail that they immediately resonate with you because you're describing it in terms that are so nuanced, so familiar, and so intimate that they also give you credit for obviously knowing the answer. So there's an element of when they see your blog, when they see your YouTube video, when they get your most recent newsletter, they go, oh, this person gets me. This person gets me. They must have installed video cameras in our office. They must have installed listening devices on our phones because they know exactly what I'm up against. They know exactly what we're going through here. The third component, which is really kind of the lever that all of this is hinging on, is brand preference. And brand preference is really a combination of positioning, articulation, distinction, differentiation, call it what you will, where you are positioning yourself so that it's actually risky, dangerous, and dumb to hire anyone other than you. And I want to repeat that so our listeners really get a hold of it. We need to make it so it's risky, dangerous, and dumb to hire anyone else for the kind of solution that you provide. So it's not just about being the best because you can't really win that race. Being the best is a completely subjective, everyone has their own definition. But if you are the one that is the safest choice, you are the one that is the smartest choice, you are the one that is most in alignment with that particular prospect's goals, values, preferences, and personality, that makes you the only choice. All the other competition literally falls away because they say, I want to work with Denise. I need to work with Denise. Are there other people that do what she does? Well, sort of, but not really. Not really, because the way that she thinks, the way that she operates, her philosophy, her values, the way that she talks about the outcomes, I have not heard anyone else talk about the outcomes the way that she does. I'm signing up for that. So could you go to a competitor? Sure. Would you be drop dead certain you're making a great choice? No. Because if you're following Denise, if you're listening to this podcast, if you're a regular subscriber, if you follow her online, you know that she has a very distinct point of view. She has a very clear set of values, what she stands for and what she stands against. And you know that if you go with somebody else, you are not going to get that. And that means that if we don't risk turning some people off, we're never going to turn anybody on. This is really, really important, Denise. I had a client who was in New Orleans, Cajun fella. And he said, well, David, I was explaining this whole market eminence concept to him. And he says, oh, yeah, my grandpappy said something similar. And I said, wait a minute, your grandpappy said something similar to market eminence? He goes, yeah. Here's what my grandpappy said. And I can't do the Cajun accent, but I'll give you the flavor of it.
Nobody can.
I know, it's really tough. It's really tough.
I'm in the
He
middle
said,
of it. I live in Cajun country.
well, there you go.
And people
There you
say,
go.
oh, Denise, you've got such a pretty Southern accent. I don't have an accent. I have a drawl. But
So there you go. So check
accents
out
are
the
regional.
drawl. Here's
Yes.
here's my version of it. What his grandpappy said was, son, you ain't nobody till somebody hates your guts.
You know,
And
that's
yeah,
true.
that's pretty much it. That's pretty much market eminence in a nutshell.
It is, I love that, and I'm literally in Cajun country, I'm not joking, and for those of you who don't know about the Cajun accent, it is very distinctive. It pretends to be French, it's not, it's a patois, but nobody in the world sounds like them, nobody.
It's true.
So and I don't even wanna try. I would hurt myself if I tried, but
Right.
they're good people. But, one of the things sorry, my phone is ringing. One of the things that I wanted to ask you, and I was writing this down while you were talking, you're talking about visibility, market respect, and brand preferences, but there's consistency. If you have a voice, you need to be consistent with that voice and not follow the rabbit, go down the rabbit hole and go, "Oh, shiny object, I'm gonna do this week."
Yes.
You're lost, you've already lost.
Yeah.
So, you talk about owning your niche, and you're doing a beautiful job of explaining that to me, and becoming the definitive voice in your industry, and I know people are gonna say, "Well, that's all great, but how do I get there?"
Yeah. I bet you'd like an answer to that question.
I kinda sorta would because I'm following
Okay.
along going, "I'm gonna learn from this man." So,
So
yeah.
here's how to do it. Here are really the first 3 steps, but actually these are the only 3 steps. So we talk about visibility, credibility, brand preference. Sounds great, David. What do I do this afternoon? What do I do tomorrow morning to start making this happen for me and for my business? So we talked about visibility, getting seen. You're putting content out there. Great. That's step 1. What kind of content? I'll tell you what to stop doing immediately. How-to content is dead. How-to content is finished. Stick a fork in it. It is done. It is never coming back because of AI. So if you want AI survivability, in other words, answering the question, to what extent can your expertise be replaced by AI? If you are putting out how-to content, the answer is you can 100% be replaced by AI.
It's
Let me tell you
happening
the 3
everywhere.
things that AI cannot do, or at least not yet. Tomorrow, the answer might be different, but today I'm telling you these are uniquely human qualities of the content that you should be putting out. Number 1, no more how-to content. Focus on how to think content. How to think. Write that down. How to think. How to think is much higher level. It's strategic. It's strategic advisory type of content, specifically based on your own expertise, experience, what you've learned, what you've done, what you've seen, your battle scars, your war stories, and your lessons learned. Because nobody has that. Nobody except you. So when your how to think content comes from your lived professional experience, that immediately stands out like a beacon. Second kind of content is what to believe, and more importantly, what not to believe. So, how can you start to be a belief shifter so that you're starting to separate the wheat from the chaff? You're the one that separates the signal from the noise. You become the trusted voice that people turn to when their BS meter is on high, and they know that if they tune into you, they're going to get the real deal. So what to believe, belief shifting content is things like making content that talks about myths and truths, or even better, myths and half truths, things that sound true, but in your experience, they're really not. Or they're outdated truths or outdated practices that no longer serve your clients, no longer serve your industry. Things that are missing, funky, broken, and sad. Those are the things that you can start to pick apart. You can start to call out the elephant in all of those rooms. So category 2 is what to believe. Category 3 is where to focus to get ready for what's coming next. Where to focus for what's coming next, meaning not just dangers, threats, but also opportunities. How can you help your audience see around corners? How can you help them as a trend spotter or a future caster figure out what is coming down the pike 3 months, 6 months, 12 months down the road, that if someone had only told them, if someone had only warned them that this was coming, they could get ready. Like Wayne Gretzky says, I don't skate to where the puck is, I skate to where the puck is going to be. That is critically important. So you can start doing some trend spotting. You can start doing some future casting. And by the way, you don't need data. People say, "Oh, I got to hire a research team. I got to do surveys. I got to do all this data." This is the world according to you. Right? What are you seeing? What are you getting ready for? How are you advising your clients? Not only for, look out because this may be changing, or danger, danger. Oh, this may be coming towards you. But what are the opportunities? What are the opportunities? What are the things that people can get in on early because they follow you, because they listen to you, that will give them a strategic advantage? So sometimes when I talk about, what's coming down the pike, what's around the corner, people look at monsters around the corner. It's not always bad news. It's not always negative trends. It could be positive trends, or new technologies, or emerging markets, or shifts in the current market that you're just picking up because you are in that industry and you are seeing it through your own eyes and maybe through your clients' eyes as well. So if you focus on those three things for Market Eminence, number one, no more how-to content, all about how to think, higher level, big picture, strategic advisory type of content based on your personal and professional lived experience. Number two, what to believe and what not to believe. So belief shifting content. Number three, where to focus to get ready for what's coming next, both avoiding the negatives and jumping on the positives early. If you do those three things, you will be ahead of 95% of your competition, because 95% of your competition still suffers from how to, me too syndrome, and they're still cranking out the same old nonsense that they've always been cranking out, that is perfectly situated to be replaced by AI, because AI is instant, perfect, and free. And those folks, they're extinct and they don't know it yet. But if you elevate to where the top 5% operate, how to think, what to believe, where to focus on for what's coming next, you will stand head and shoulders above your competition.
And you have to pay attention. You can't just live in your own little bubble, your own little industry. Look, I'm a web developer by trade. I'm a podcaster by accident. It's 18 years old. It was a happy accident. But just as an example, going back to something you said earlier, I had a very long conversation with a lady that I built her website, 7, 8 years ago. When I build these things, they last until we kill them. They don't break down. And she was, I was listening to her and realizing that the same exact issues that she was having with her clients and with her office staff have not changed. They still exist. And I was listening to her. She said, well, I need to get these things sorted out. I'm not going to procrastinate anymore. And by the time we were done, I said, listen, you need an app. And I explained to her exactly what that app would do in-house. And to reach her clients, she said, just build it. It's exactly what I need. Because she was going to keep doing the same old, and it was driving her crazy.
Yeah.
So that app is working as we speak, but I had to listen to her and say, what's changed? Nothing. Why? Well, we're busy. You're not that busy. You're going to be busy, broke, and exhausted. So let's talk.
Nice. I love that. Busy, broke, and exhausted.
And she was not broke, but really tired. See, it was a terrific conversation. And, people will show up when you need them to show up, because I just called her. I knew it was time. Tax season was over. I knew that she needed something done. And I called her, and she sent me a note this morning, said, Denise, thank you. I needed that conversation. I didn't know I needed it, but she did. And now we're both excited. So people are going to show up when you're ready to hear from them. Don't ignore it. Don't procrastinate. So, I'll answer this later. Get on the phone.
Yeah.
Take care of it right then, right there.
Amen.
Yeah. So now let's go over, and I've got so many you ought to see it. I put sticky notes. I will not mark up a book. Anybody who knows me knows this. My childhood librarian would rear up and get me with a ruler. And she wasn't Catholic, and neither am I, but she had a ruler, I swear to you. But there's a chapter in here where you call mind spark questions. And I sticky noted that one twice, actually.
Well, actually, there's Mind Spark questions under each of the chapters.
Yeah, but
Every
this
chapter has its own
yeah,
set of Mind Spark questions.
right, I'm sorry, I should have been more clear, but I'm on page 88,
Sure.
and you're talking about and here's some of the questions. What bold prediction about your industry, kinda goes back to what you were just chatting about, would make your competitors uncomfortable if you made it public? Well, that's a big one.
Yeah.
And I started scribbling on, on a notepad, not on the book. I went, "Oh, that is a great question," because the chapter that we're talking about is Future, Your Vision That Leads.
Yeah.
One of my favorite chapters, by the way.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that today. How can people open this book? And you can open it. I'm going to tell you, it's an easy book to read. You can just page flip through it and go, "Oh, I needed that." You don't even need to start at the beginning. Every chapter is gold.
Thank you.
Okay, so live your vision. Okay, look, keep on going. I'm going to go back to that page. So, what do you want people to know about that particular chapter? What's important that they need to go, "Oh, I'm going to go find it right now."
Sure. Well, I think the first few chapters is about kind of getting your feet wet with this concept of developing a slant, an opinion, a point of view that people will resonate with. And going back to our Cajun grandpappy, you ain't nobody till somebody hates your guts. Or my version of that is, if you don't risk turning some people off, you'll never turn anybody on. So when you're developing this contrarian slant, I'm going to give you just 3 prompts that people can use right away. This is also in the book, but you don't need to buy the book. I'll just give it to you here on the show. Think about a piece of conventional wisdom in your field, in your industry, that you secretly think is completely wrong, but have never publicly challenged. So behind closed doors, or you think about it, or you talk to your clients about it, or it's just something conventional wisdom in your field that you secretly think is completely wrong, but you've never publicly challenged with your outdoor voice, right? It stayed in your indoor voice, but now you're going to brainstorm just a couple of ideas, and you can do this with like short bullets, key phrases, right? Grab an index card, throw it on your whiteboard, answer that question, and then you can create a little bit of content around it, whether it's in your newsletter, whether it's in your next sales conversation, whether it's in your next LinkedIn post. So that's one. Second prompt to think about to develop your contrarian slant, your future vision, all of these things. What harsh truth about your industry are clients desperate for someone to finally acknowledge openly? I call this one the elephant in the room, right? What does everybody know, but no one is saying out loud? Right. So, for example, if you're, let's say you're a law firm and everyone hates hourly billing, it's like, why am I being billed in these 6-minute increments? I'm feeling nickel and dimed. How come a photocopy is $8? You guys are charging me $8 to photocopy one page, right? So there are things that people hate in your industry. And it's under the surface, but not too far down, not too far down at all. And clients hate it, but none of your competitors, none of the people in the industry actually acknowledge it and say, yeah, you know what? We do charge $8 a Xerox copy. We are going to bill you nickel and dime every single time in 6-minute increments. And, because if they were to say that, then it's like, yeah, we're kind of shafting you over. So how can you be the superhero? How can you be the guardian and the protector of your clients and call out these negative, harmful, or just goofy practices? And how can you basically renounce what everyone else is doing because you figured out a smarter way? You figured out a better way. So that's number 2. The third prompt to think about to develop your contrarian slant or your bigger, better future is, what strong point of view do you already hold that makes industry insiders uncomfortable, but resonates deeply with your ideal clients? Now, for this one, I call this your customer refugees, meaning that people have come to you having tried to solve this problem through other people, first, right? So let's say you're a digital marketing agency and you get on the phone with a new prospect and they hate their current digital marketing agency and they will tell you why. It's like, oh man, they would run these online ads and I would never have any transparency into what the ads are doing, how the ads are performing. They put together this incredibly complex dashboard. I never understood what the hell that was about. And I just want someone to explain online advertising to me in plain English. Oh, well, that's interesting.
This
Now
worked and that didn't, so now what?
a customer refugee has come to you and said, here's what I don't like about my previous solution provider. I hope you're not going to do the same thing. And so think about what are all those customer refugees over time? What have they been coming to you about, complaining about? They've been screwed, burned over, shafted, and let down. How can you argue against those bad negative practices? So if you answered those three questions, it'll take you maybe 5 or 6 minutes just to jot down some keywords and short phrases. I would encourage you then to take that contrarian slant, take that future vision of how the future could be better, and put that in your next LinkedIn post. Make that the subject of your next 3-minute LinkedIn video or YouTube video. Put that in your next sales conversation and say something like, by the way, a lot of our clients come to us after having suffered through A, B, C, and D. Which one of those have you experienced? And watch what happens. Watch what happens when people respond and like and comment on those posts. Watch what happens when people respond to you in a sales conversation going, oh my gosh, Denise, it's like you're reading my mind. That is exactly why I'm calling you, because my previous person was doing all this crazy crap that made me nuts. And now you have a contrarian slant. And now when people sign up with you, they're not only buying your service, they're buying your bigger, bolder future that does not have those problems in it.
Exactly, and I think, I'm not entirely sure, but I think this is Challenge the BS chapter that you're talking about.
Yes, exactly right.
I did read it 3 times. Okay, so let's talk some more about myth busting 101. When you dispel myths, you do not only just stand out, but you create the space to build something truly different. I do it all the time. I'm learning how to be better at it.
Yeah. Yeah. So myths is it's related to this. And obviously, you're using some of the myths to develop your contrarian slant and your future vision. So all of these things are connected. The reason that I approach some of these concepts through multiple different doorways, if I said, for example, and I will often do this in a seminar or a workshop or a boardroom that with clients during a strategy day, I'll say, okay, let's talk about your contrarian slant. Some people are afraid of contrarian. Some people are afraid of going against the grain. When I say, let's talk about your contrarian slant, part of their brain shuts down. So another doorway into this is, well, tell me about the BS in your industry. And now they open up. It's like, oh my gosh, Denise, let me tell you about the BS in my industry. We are so tired of this. Our clients hate that. When this happens, it makes us look bad, blah, 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 blah. So there is some overlap, but it doesn't matter how you get to the stuff. It's important that you start talking about the stuff, right? What's missing, funky, broken, and sad? You heard me say that earlier. That's another doorway into some of this raw material. So the way to think about this is, what can we do to challenge some established truths? What are some of those myths and outdated beliefs? So for example, Facebook advertising is hard. I'm going to pick on Facebook ads because why not? I've wasted millions of dollars. Literally, I've wasted millions of dollars. I've made millions of dollars with Facebook ads, but I've also wasted millions of dollars on Facebook ads. So I think I've earned the right financially to bust on Facebook ads. Facebook ads are really, really hard to learn, right? This is the myth, right? This is what all the agencies, all of the marketers that are selling Facebook ads want you to believe. I have a client, and again, I don't teach Facebook ads. I got no skin in this game. I no longer even run Facebook ads, so I literally have no skin in this game. He said, I was playing around with Facebook ads and I picked up a couple blogs and, I got a couple of, ebooks and I'm running these Facebook ads and it's working really well. And I said, well, wait a minute. You mean you hired an agency? And they said, no. I said, oh, so you hired a freelancer? They said, no. I said, you're doing this yourself? They said, yeah. And I said, it's not incredibly complicated, incredibly hard. He goes, no. And said, and you're getting good results. It's actually working. It's like, yes. And nobody wants to let you know this, right? It's a mystery. It is a black box sitting inside a jigsaw puzzle, hiding in an ivory tower. Everyone wants to make this really complex and really hard and really out of reach for you. And it's not. And so imagine if there was a Facebook agency, and there probably never will be because they're not brave enough. Imagine if there was a Facebook agency that says, you know what? You could do this yourself. It's not that hard. In fact, if you hire us to do your initial Facebook ads, part of what we will do is we will educate you so that after 3 months, we've made ourselves progressively unnecessary. And you can just run this on your own if you want to. If you want to keep working with us because it's just easier, that's fine too. Imagine, number one, imagine the hate mail they would get from all the other agencies. And then imagine the flocks of people that would be like, okay, there's all these agencies that are charging $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month. They want you to think it's the hardest possible thing. You got to beta test 500 versions of each ad. You need some secret wizard knowledge to make this work. There's one agency that says, come to us, pay us for 3 months. We'll teach you everything you need to know, and we'll get your initial ads up and running. If you want to keep working with us, great. If you don't, even better. That's why we're here. We're here to educate you, liberate you, and give you the keys to the car. That would be amazing. Now, do you think they would be able to steal some market share from the folks that want to make this hard? I think so.
Yes.
Do you think there would be some word of mouth and some referrals that might be happening when they're like, Denise, you would not believe? I found an agency that taught me to do the ads better than all my previous agencies put together. After 3 months, they handed me the keys to the kingdom. Now I'm doing it myself for free. People would bust down the door of this kind of Facebook ads agency. But no one's going to do this. And by the way, if someone is listening and runs a Facebook ad agency and, you end up implementing this, you owe me a milkshake.
Or $5.
Or
Yes.
$5.
Right. And I'm sitting here going, I wonder how many people are going to go, oh, I can do that. And not just in Facebook ads, obviously, but there's so many different ways that you could implement exactly what you were just talking about.
Right.
Huh. I don't want to do it because I don't like Facebook. But
There you go.
I don't know anything about ads, but I'm almost hearing in the back of my head people going, oh, I'm going to do that. I hope somebody does. I really do, in multiple industries and arenas, because it needs to happen.
Yes.
So, and you were talking about referrals, and I do have questions that I had written down about referrals. So many people kind of depend, and I was one of those people for a long time. My referrals were fabulous. I didn't have to do any ads of any description, but things change, and here comes AI, and here comes, people are wanting different things, and after a while, I realized that that was no longer working for me.
Yeah.
So, what do you tell people who are going, I hear what she's saying. I've been looking at my numbers and my, content where the people who are reaching out to me just kind of go away. What
Yeah.
do we do now?
Well, so if your referrals are receding, and I think you're right that is now, it's becoming harder and harder, right? SEO is out the window. People are overwhelmed with all kinds of choices, AI and otherwise. So think about building an electromagnetic fence around your business. And this electromagnetic fence has two polarities. It's got a positive side and a negative side. The negative side is going to push away, it's going to repel all of the bad fit clients, all the people who are cheap, penny pinching, don't see the value, not aligned with who you are, nightmare clients that would micromanage, penny pinch, and just otherwise make you crazy. So we're repelling those people. On the positive side, the electromagnetic fence around your business pulls in this incredibly powerful way, all of the perfect fits, the people that get it, that need it, that want it with a sense of urgency. And the way that you turn on this electromagnetic fence is by not only sharing what you do, but sharing who you are, sharing your personality, your preferences, your values, your opinions, your biases, your rants, right? This is going to decommoditize you so that the right people now suddenly see you like a lighthouse. You're a lighthouse on the shore. You're no longer a tugboat. A tugboat is out there in the water, right? Pulling and steaming and huffing and puffing and working so hard to prove themselves. The lighthouse just stands there. The lighthouse has an incredibly strong illuminating force. It illuminates the harbor. It shows you the rocks. It shows you the safe passage. It helps you navigate around the problem areas, and it is your safe harbor. Everyone can see the lighthouse from miles and miles away. No huffing, no puffing, and actually no movement. No movement is required, unlike the tugboat that's constantly huffing, puffing, pushing, and chasing. So think about, what is my lighthouse content that can build this electromagnetic fence? I know I'm mixing metaphors, but what is this lighthouse content that can build this electromagnetic fence that strongly pulls in, just like your referrals used to pull in, strongly pulls in all the best fits, the folks that get it, need it, want it, and are ready. They're able to pay, willing to pay, and eager to pay, because they realize that you're this category of one, that it's risky, dangerous, and dumb to hire anybody else because other people might do a version of what you do, but no one else is you. No one else has your values, your opinions, your perspectives, your battle scars, your war stories. You are unique because you've shared your lived experience and all of your lessons learned and what's right with the world and what's wrong with the world. So now you have this incredibly powerful electromagnetic fence around your business that every single day, week in and week out, it's going to repel the wrong people and pull in the right people. When you invest in building your market eminence, and Denise also mentioned a very important concept, which is consistency. This isn't one LinkedIn post that we're talking about. This isn't one blog. This isn't one video and then you're done. This is literally day in, day out, week in, week out, happy or sad, feel like it or not, rain or shine. This is who you are. This is what you stand for. This is what you're publishing. This is what you're ranting about. This is what you're sharing. Email, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, I don't care what platform, but it just reeks. It reeks of your personality. It reeks of your values, your alignment, and your certainty that you can help your clients, you can help your audience achieve the result they want to in a way that no one else can, simply because no one else is you. And this is not about cheap PR stunts. It's not about weird for the sake of being weird. This is about uncovering who you really are, right? Because all of my questions, notice the questions that I asked you earlier when I set up those prompts. I said, what conventional wisdom do you secretly think is completely wrong? You already secretly think it's completely wrong. What harsh truth are clients desperate for someone to finally acknowledge openly? You already know the harsh truth. You're not going to be grabbing some headlines or making something up out of thin air. What strong point of view do you already hold? That was the beginning of question number 3. So this is not about putting artificial stuff onto who you are. If anything, this is about removing the filters, which I know, Denise, you're going to love, removing the filters and being unapologetically more you. And if you can remove the filters and be unapologetically more you and share that in a strategic way with consistency, that really is the entire recipe for market eminence.
It really is, and I wanted to ask you too, you know, and I believe everything you just said. In fact, I just made a block. I made a square and said, "Go back to minute 10:54 and copy everything from my transcript." But commanding attention from media, because, now let's assume we've done everything that you're suggesting that we do. We have read the book. We have sticky noted it or made, notes on it, whatever it takes, whatever. I won't do it, but, I will move my sticky notes around. And I'm known for not having any filters. I'm a highly committed introvert, highly committed. I can be around people for 59 and 3/4 minutes. After that, I've got to go home.
Right.
But I'm listening, I'm paying attention. I love the people that I get to meet. You guys, in so many ways, become my mentors. But what is the next step from all of that? And I wanted to ask you a little bit later about storytelling, because I think that's important too. But let's go to commanding attention from media, your peers, and even competitors. And honestly, I don't have competitors as far as I'm concerned. I have other podcast hosts that I think highly of that I'm willing to introduce you to.
Yes, 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 yes. Well, I think stories and the way that you talk about that lived experience that we were referring to earlier is super, super important. And when I say stories, I mean, I'm talking about your brand story, your origin story. Most important are client
Hmm,
stories, client transformation, before and after,
right.
all of these different kinds of things. People resonate with stories. And I'll tell you one from my corporate days. So back when I worked at the best job ever for the number 6 best company to work for, PeopleSoft, we had these blue backpacks. Every new employee is issued a blue branded PeopleSoft backpack. It was a very nice backpack, very nice, heavy. It wasn't one of these like cheapy, thin backpacks. It was this beautiful, amazing, heavy nylon. It just looked great. It fit all kinds of things and had all kinds of cool inner compartments. It was a very sharp looking, very highly functional, ergonomic backpack. And so this kind of became a legend. In fact, when you were in an airport and you had your backpack, because that's how we carried our laptops, you would see someone across the terminal with another blue backpack, and then you realized that there was another consultant going off to another assignment, and you'd go and chat, and, backpack is kind of like your secret ID badge. Anyway, a client, a client is at an airport, and he sees a PeopleSoft employee with a backpack. And he says, I've always admired those backpacks. Those backpacks look really cool. And the employee was saying, you know what? They are really cool. In fact, let me show it to you. And he opened it up and he saw the laptop case and this and where the pens go and the business cards and, the special container for the charger and all of this kind of cool stuff. The guy said, man, where can I get a backpack like that? And he says, well, I don't know. The only place I've ever seen this is, our company gives it to new employees. Person goes, man, I would really love to buy a backpack like that. And this is a PeopleSoft client. I'm not sure if I mentioned that. That's an important part of the story. It's a PeopleSoft client who goes up to this guy at the airport and they're saying, oh, we have PeopleSoft and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, long story short is the guy unpacks his PeopleSoft backpack and he gives it to the client. He says, here, take my backpack. I can get another one. And so that story, I'm not even sure if that story's true. But when I was a new, I think it's true. But when I was a new employee, I cannot tell you the impact that story had, because how many lessons are in there? Customer service, loyalty, sacrifice, kindness, giving, right? All of these different things.
Gratitude. Let's not forget
And
gratitude.
gratitude. So here I am. This is like, what, 25, 30 years later? Is a 90, so 98, 28 years later. 28 years later, I can still retell that story pretty much exactly as it was conveyed to me. I will never forget that story, not because it's life-changing or profound, but because it's an amazing example, right? So that kind of story, origin story, brand story, customer story, internal customer service story, external customer service story, if we can convey those stories with some consistency, that will also reinforce our market eminence.
It really does, and so many people say and I've had this happen, people will want to come on the show, and there's some people I'm just not going to. We're not going to be a good fit, and I don't wanna make a mess for you or me, but that's rare. It's thankfully, it's very, very rare. But I've had way too many people over the years say, "Oh, I wanna come on your show. I want people to know what I do and how" it's no, no, no. I'm not your billboard, and I have to make that very, very clear. Yes, I do want you to share your story, your origin story, but I'm not your billboard. You're not going to come in and just bore the bejeebers out of people with, "Oh, if you go to my website" no, no, no. And, I've made some hard and fast refusals because of that. But when people come in like you and they have so much to share, they've got great content to share, I'm all ears.
Yeah, absolutely. Could not agree more.
I know. So going back to how do we get attention from media? Peers I've got, yeah, I've got that, but even competitors, and I love my competitors because, like I said, I don't really think I have any. I think we're one big group of sharing. I really do. But how do we get attention from the media if that's what you're looking for?
Well, just like the big electromagnetic fence, by the way, the big electromagnetic fence does not just attract prospects, it attracts all of these stakeholders, whether it's media, whether it's partners, whether it's stages, whether it's podcast hosts. So once you turn on this electromagnetic fence, you are going to raise your profile in all of those different contexts. So you're not just going to sit by the phone and kind of wait for the phone to ring and wait to get invited to podcasts. But when you make the approach, there's a much higher chance that people will know your name. They will know what you stand for. They will know you by reputation that, oh, this is the Facebook ads agency that teaches their clients in 90 days how to do what they do. I totally want
Right.
to talk to them. I totally want to profile them. If I'm running a social media industry magazine, if I'm running the social media marketing world conference, am I going to give that person a breakout session? Absolutely. So it's about when you reach out, how much do people already know about who you are and what you do? If you look like, sound like, and act like everybody else in your industry, the answer is going to be zero. They have zero knowledge, zero excitement, and zero enthusiasm before you make initial contact. Imagine if before you make initial contact, they were already 75% sold because they've heard about you, they know what you do, they know what makes you special, they know what you stand for, they know what you stand against, and they know who you really are at your core. Do you think that sales conversation or that media placement or that speaking opportunity will be harder to get or easier to get if they're already 75% sold? It's going to be much, much easier.
It really is, and, I don't think we talk about that enough because, the idea of prospects showing up already sold on you, you have to create that, and
Yes.
you're teaching us how to create that. So getting invited into the right rooms, the stages, the podcast deals because you're seen as essential, that's critical.
Yes.
Okay, so we are gonna run out of time pretty soon. So there was another question, I wrote it down, and then had to scribble over it because I ran out of room. Is there anything else about Market Eminence that I don't tell us how you wrote it, why you wrote it, why you think it's critical, and, I have to tell you very quickly too, my favorite, I think this is the most important chapter, is it's on 70, resistance. Fight what's worth fighting for. I think that is so important. You can't just sit back and, "Oh, somebody else will do it, and I'll just chime in and go, 'Yeah, that.'" You can't do that.
Right. Right. Exactly. Well, so let me go back to your question about why I wrote it. So my three previous books, the Do It series of books, Do It Marketing, Do It Speaking, Do It Selling, there was a little bit in each of those books around positioning, messaging, differentiation, basically building a personal and professional brand. But I didn't really go deep into it, right? So I'm going to call out in a good way. I'm going to call out two marketing gurus that I really respect and have had a big influence on my own thinking and development, Seth Godin and Gary Vaynerchuk. So Seth Godin came out with this amazing book about 20 years ago called Purple Cow. And he
I
said,
have
just
it.
be remarkable. Just be
I have that
remarkable.
book. Yep.
Yeah,
I
it's
know.
a great book. And be remarkable, but he didn't really give you the playbook for how to be remarkable. And then Gary Vaynerchuk says, well, you know what? Just create amazing content. Create amazing content and create amazing content in great quantity and quality, and you'll be fine. Doesn't really define amazing content. So if you wanted to implement some of the Seth Godin strategies. If you are like me, if you're a huge fan of Gary V and you would like to start creating some high quality, amazing quote unquote content, this is the playbook. This is the playbook for what actually earns attention, what stands out, what are people willing to cut through the noise and start paying attention to you, what will stop the scroll, what will get attention in the inbox. What are people hungry for? And they are hungry for the kind of content that we've been talking about here for the last hour or so. And the exact how to step by step is in the 22 strategies that are in the Market Eminence book. So that's why I wrote it, so that we can finally decode what does be remarkable really mean in the real world, and how do we start doing that? And what does create amazing content really mean, and how can we start doing that?
For me, I'll be honest with you, amazing content is something that I can read easily. It impacts me somehow. Might be emotionally, it might be, "Ooh, I need to go learn how to do that." I'm autodidactic, so I need to break things and put them back together. There has to be something in that piece of content that I come across that has me going, "Ooh," and that "ooh" has to happen almost instantly.
Right.
So I know what you're talking about. David, before I let you go reluctantly, what do you want the audience to really take away from this conversation?
Well, I would love them to take away the fact that being vanilla and keeping your head down and trying to blend in is the worst possible thing you can do. And if you follow the advice in the Market Eminence book, you will stand out. And going back to my earlier little soundbite, if you don't risk turning some people off, you will never turn anybody on. And right now, the most important AI proofing that you can do, and future proofing and price proofing and everything else, is to be more of who you already are, and do that loudly, proudly, often, and consistently.
Yes. It's amazing to me, I'll be working with a client and I'll say, "Okay, where's your social media?" And I'll go look at it, but then I do a deep dive and I go way back. They may be in business 15, 20 years and they have changed a lot, but that stuff is still out there. And before we do anything, I make them scrub it. Get rid of that. That's not who you are.
Right.
So, there's that too. Is there any one action you'd like our audience to take if they're ready to start building that kind of market eminence that you've been talking about?
Yes, I would say go back about 30 minutes and look at the 3 prompts that I shared earlier, and then put your version of that, or put your answers to that in your very next email or LinkedIn post or YouTube video or webinar or sales conversation, and start to implement just a baby step, a single baby step, and watch how your audience will start to react differently, and with much more enthusiasm and much more excitement.
Exactly. Where can we connect with you, find your books, or work with you?
So thank you for asking. All of the resources, including some free downloads, training, worksheets, exercises that will help people with what we just talked about, is at marketeminence.com. And then my main website that has blog, newsletter, all kinds of resources, downloads, etc., is doitmarketing.com. But for the purpose of today, marketeminence.com has a whole bunch of free resources that people can grab right now.
I think you have your book up for 99 cents on Kindle, don't you?
That it's true. There is a limited, ordinarily it's like $7.99, but right now for the immediate future, people are listening to this here in real time, it is a specially reduced 99 cents for the Kindle ebook edition.
I already grabbed it. I have your book. You sent it to me, but I like to, when I'm, nose deep into these books, I like to have them three ways: the physical book, the Kindle book, and Audible. And I
Yes,
may
well, the
have them all
audio is
going.
also
And
available
I
for our
know.
audio friends. That's also out there.
I know. I mean, I may have them all going simultaneously because I really need to dig in. Well, listen, everybody. David, thank you so much for being here, and you are welcome to come back any old time. You just let me know.
Thank you, Denise. This was great fun.
Thank you. And for everyone listening, if something in this conversation landed with you, and I suspect there's a lot of some things that landed with you, don't brush it off. Pay attention to that. Take what David shared and start small. And again, as he said, be consistent. One shift in how you show up can change who starts showing up for you. And in this episode, I was honored to sit down with David Newman to explore what it really takes to stop chasing clients. We all do it. We've been doing it and it doesn't work anymore, and start attracting the right opportunities. So at the center of the conversation is his concept of market eminence. It's a shift from competing for attention to becoming the obvious choice. I love that in your space. So he explains how to position yourself as a true category of one. And I said it earlier, write that down, category of one. Build authority that draws in high value clients and partners, and create visibility that extends way beyond referrals and word of mouth. And he also shares how the right positioning can shorten sales cycles because prospects show up, they're sold, they're ready, they want to work with you. And then how to future-proof your business in an increasingly AI-driven world. And this conversation challenges the idea that success comes from more marketing. It really doesn't. And instead it focuses on clarity, positioning, and again, consistency, and being known for something that matters. So if this conversation has you rethinking how you're showing up in your market, don't let it stop there. Get the book, connect with David, take a close look at where your business is, and follow him along. You can find him on his website or LinkedIn, Amazon. Grab those books. They need to be all of his books that he mentioned, they need to be part of your entrepreneurial library. David, thank you. It has been a pleasure, and I hope I didn't interrupt too much. I was like, ooh, I have something. I have my hand up in the air. David. So thank you.
This was so great, Denise. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Your Partner in Success Radio is a free business podcast with host Denise Griffitts. It's all about great stories, conversation, and context to help you move your business and life forward with actionable tips and advice from her guest experts. To listen and subscribe, just find us on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you consume your podcasts.